How are humans impacting the hydrologic cycle? Water enters the hydrologic cycle in two different ways. Consumptive water use refers to water that is not returned to streams after use. It enters the atmosphere through evapotranspiration. Non-consumptive use refers to water that is returned to surface runoff, usually carrying many contaminants. The hydrologic cycle is Earth's perfect closed-loop system, storing fresh water in lakes, rivers and streams, man-made reservoirs, and in groundwater and aquifers. What is a water footprint? The water footprint of an individual, community, or business is defined as the total volume of fresh water that is used to produce the goods and services consumed by the individual or community or produced by the business. Every living thing on Earth has a water footprint, but none bigger than a human. Have you ever thought about how much water it takes to make an apple? One bottle of beer? 1 pound of beef? 1 fast food hamburger? 1 pound of wheat? 1 cotton shirt? For every dollar of revenue generated by industry? Who has the biggest feet? If the global average is a size 5, then Americans are wearing a size 10. Australia is wearing a size 6. Ethiopia is wearing a size 2. Our presence is being felt by Earth more and more each day. "97% of Earth's water is salt water. Only 3% is fresh. 10 trillion gallons have been stored in reservoirs over the last 40 years. Less than 1% of treated water is used for drinking and cooking. 87% of the water in Colorado flows to the Pacific, 13% flows to the Atlantic. 3% of land in Colorado is riparian habitat used by 90% of state wildlife. Water in Colorado is so important that we have our own water court. Colorado has 9,000 miles of rivers and streams, 2,000 lakes and reservoirs. Of that, 1,300 miles of streams in Colorado are impacted by metals from acid mine drainage. Why should we care what's happening with water in Colorado and other parts of the world? Let's ask the experts.
Changing those, it's called change of use, and you go to court, in water court, and you change the water rights. So you don't have to be injuring a downstream water user. You actually change the water right and use what was historically used. So corn used 21 inches a year over a certain amount of acres, and then you say, okay, the crop can use that, but you have to replace what water went back to the river. So you do an analysis and then take that water that was used, use it in your system, and then you can use that for irrigation, treatment, whatever you want to do.
Are there value in the water rights that people own?
CBT, which is Colorado Big Thompson Water, which is on the western slope over there by Granby, it was given away to farmers in the 50s for supplemental agricultural use, and nowadays it's worth $10,000 a unit. So there's some guys that have hundreds of shares. I mean, so these people have, a huge sum of money. So it's equity. I mean, the water is valuable, and it's only going to get more valuable as growth continues.
All right, let's talk about your time you spent in Africa working on water projects. Where were you and what exactly did you do?
I went with an organization called Engineers Without Borders, and we went to Mali, a small town called Zambugu, which is just out of Segu. And I went with kind of a friend, and he got me involved. He had been involved in the project for 2 years, and it was kind of a water improvement, water education project. And very practical. Go in there, show these guys that water is super valuable, which you'd think they'd understand that, but it's not that simple. I mean, when there's generations of people just drinking out of shallow, contaminated wells, it's not that cut and dry. But after, I haven't been involved in that project now in some time, but after my visit, we got them talking about rainwater harvesting, gardens, vegetable garden they built, and they have those resources, and they've been only been able to capitalize on them. So they still do, and probably will for as long as I live, a water quality problem and a quantity problem. But we tried to help them and educate them, and they understand that the water is super valuable, but it's the application and conserving it and using it to their most beneficial use is what we try to help with.
Do you think solving the problem entails sending them money, or educating them, sending them resources? What would be the most beneficial use for them to solve their water issues?
Education, resources, and then maybe you go there and help them build something. It's a tough thing because you have to kind of help them as it's going along. So education, though, I would say is number one. And there is a finite amount. I mean, Colorado has all these rivers leaving the state, so there's only so much to go around. So there is a finite amount in the sense that you can only use so much in that year. You can only build so many dams. So you won't have this abundance that we probably had 50 years ago when the population wasn't what it is now.